Says live. Oh, good morning. That was very quick. So welcome this morning. I'm Dr. Mary Christine Dix from Align Health Agency. And today I'm joined with Andy Barnes from the Foodstate Company, who we're going to be talking to about nutritional supplements, why they are not all made the same, and why what you're buying can sometimes actually be a synthetic product, not actually a food source. And we're going to cover also in these current climates and in general so that we can kind of fight disease and illness stronger and be our best selves. So thank you, Andy, for joining us. Great to have you.
Pleasure, not at all. Great to be here.
Thank you. So firstly, I think our viewers would really love to know a little bit more about the Foodstate Company and why you're different to, let's say high street brands and different companies like that.
Okay, that's probably the most commonly asked question of what is the difference. And it's not even really a particularly complicated explanation. The world's supply of vitamins and minerals are basically made from the same synthetic chemical, elements. You can sort of split them into vitamins are invariably synthetic. They don't come from a plant source or an animal source or anything. They are invariably just a synthetic product. So take vitamin C, for example, it'll always say vitamin C on the front. You turn it around and it says ascorbic acid. That's the synthetic version of vitamin C. And that is the industry. Minerals are a little bit different. Not suggesting they're any better, but they're different. If you think of the way the food chain works, a plant will pull a mineral out of the soil. In that form, it's a very basic form. We call it a mineral salt, but easiest way to imagine it is just think of it as a tiny rock, a miniature rock. So a plant can eat a rock. We can't. We need the plant to turn the rock into a food so that our zinc and our calcium and our magnesium and iron and all the things we need for our bodies to function, that needs to be turned into a food mineral, and we eat the plant and get the benefit. Now, if you look at all mineral supplements, it's basically the first part without the middle part. So we get the basic mineral salt, this miniature rock. We don't have a mechanism to absorb it, so we don't absorb it. So, that is the issue. So that doesn't mean it works or it's a good idea. It just tries to guarantee you're getting what is considered a daily requirement. So in a nutshell, that's the difference.
So you're basically, you're getting the rock version where your body looks at it and goes, well, not really sure what this is. Right, yeah. How do we break this down?
Yeah, I always give the example of, going back to calcium. There's calcium in an oyster shell, but it's not very good for you eating an oyster shell because you can't get any benefit from it because it's that basic elemental form. It's not a food calcium. It's a miniature rock that hasn't become a food. And the way it becomes a food is the plant, through its roots, takes the mineral out of the soil and it adds a load of elements to it, mainly proteins, lipids and amino acids, but also carbs, enzymes, bioflavonoids, all of these things. And it becomes physically entirely different. And what all of those elements do is they act as the chaperone. So they take the mineral and they deliver it to the receptor site in the body. Without the delivery system, you lose your ability to absorb it. That is why food states and food nutrients work and ordinary supplements work in a limited way, is my politer way of putting it.
It astounds me. I remember when we first met and you told me all this stuff and I just thought, how do they get away with it? And I've used Foodstate products for years and we've recommended in the clinic for years as well, because I think they're the best source of nutrients. But you're so much cheaper often than a lot of these companies as well on the internet. I mean, I've got clients come in and say, so I bought this and what do you think about this? It costs £30 or it costs this. And I'm like, yeah, maybe just finish it and then go on to the Foodstate stuff. But like, I don't know how they're allowed to market stuff when they're, strictly speaking, not being necessarily that truthful.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the reality is average Joe Blogg's going and buying a supplement, if they're buying a vitamin C, a vitamin D, some iron, some calcium, whatever, they think they are buying what they would normally get, but perhaps aren't getting because of the diet they choose in their diet. And of course, that's just not the case. I suppose the slightly naughty bit, if you like, is the fact that on the front of the label, they're allowed to write whatever it is. It's only when you turn it round, by law, in the ingredients, they actually have to list the source. So it might say vitamin C on the front, but on the back, they have to say that it, for example, is ascorbic acid. So my advice to people is always turn it round and have a look at the back. But I can almost save people the bother, because 99% of the world's supply of supplements are all of the, what we call generically, we call it the isolated form, just the isolated nutrient without any of the food factors attached to it that nature would normally provide.
Yeah. Okay. It makes sense. I just thought of something to ask you then, and it's just fallen out my head.
Well, I suppose to sort of complete the circle, people then say, okay, so what is Foodstate? How do you achieve it? And it took a very long time by some incredibly clever people, one of whom you've met, actually, Llewellyn, who was there right at the start. And these were people treating chronic disease in the 70s, in particular heart disease, cancer, and they were trying to treat these diseases through holistic methods. They couldn't get enough food into people to start a healing process because, well, we can get onto that, but the soil doesn't have in it what it used to. They certainly couldn't treat it with all the existing supplements because they just couldn't get a result. So they thought, right, how do we get concentrated amounts of food nutrients into a capsule or a tablet? And vitamin C works with citrus pulp. Others work with nutritional yeast. Now, never any concerns about yeast. There's no yeast in the product, but yeast is just a brilliant growing medium. Others with Chinese yellow pea, for example, create the growing medium. So these isolated nutrients go in the same way as a plant takes it out the soil. We just emulate that. And over the period of a couple of weeks, the nutrient has all of those elements added to it, the proteins, the carbs, the things I've mentioned. And there we have our complete food nutrient now encapsulated. So
that's amazing.
It's a growth process, but it is just a growth process in a large vat, as opposed to it happening in a plant, because it's the only way you can do it. So you end up with the identical food matrix, is what we refer to it, and there we can then produce that. And our calcium, for example, is 30 milligrams, not 1,000. Appropriate doses that the body really responds to.
That's what I was going to ask you. So I've got lots of clients, when they come in, I give them a list of nutrients that I would take every day without fail. So vitamin D3 would be one of them, omega-3, probiotics, selenium and magnesium. Those are my 5. I add in kind of what I need at different times of the year. But people often say, well, I've got a really balanced diet. Why do I need nutritional supplements? And I'm like, 9 times out of 10, I'm looking at people's diets and going, well, strictly speaking, that's not a balanced diet. But when you're talking about plant-based nutrients, it is a food. You're basically adding in the bits you're missing, aren't you? Or the bits maybe we just don't get enough of.
Exactly. So probably 2 points here. The first, you just hit the nail on the head. We're not getting enough of them. Now, the first global event where all of the farm soils on every continent had been analysed and discussed was the 1992 Rio Earth Summit. So, we're going back 28 years, probably more than 1 billion people have joined the planet since then. So we know the situation is not getting any better. But what it did show is that the minerals, we need about 60 minerals, but quite honestly, 20 of them are much more important. The ones you just mentioned, like magnesium, terribly important, zinc, calcium, etc. And they found that European farm soils were over 70% deficient. And even in places where you think they've got so much land, like Australia was over 50% deficient. And then some areas in Europe are also 80%. We know the situation can only get worse because we keep taking out and not putting in. So, you often hear people say, oh, you don't need that stuff. as long as you have a balanced diet. But I don't know, and if you do, tell me, but I don't know what a balanced diet is anymore, because if you are told to eat salad leaves and you go to the supermarket and you get salad leaves that have written nothing in it and have been washed through chlorine 10 times, you're not getting much goodness. So that leads me on to the second point, which is when you eat high nutrient foods, your body doesn't suddenly have to shut down because you take too much. If you're eating a lot of nutrients, your body will keep absorbing what it needs and says, great, I've had enough of that, I can just safely eliminate it, or I'm going to store it for when I need it next.
Yeah.
Very few nutrients can't be stored. Vitamin C is water soluble, you can't store it. But most nutrients you store, and you store them in places like the liver and the organs of the body for later use. That's, if you like, a survival mechanism. Now, when you look at these synthetic nutrients, your body starts off by saying, I don't know what that is. You'll notice on the instructions it says always take with food, in the hope that it will bind with a bit of protein already in your stomach. So you get a little bit of absorption. But without that,
they're piggybacking, basically piggybacking off your own diet so that it might be useful.
Yeah. And then your body says, right, I get a little bit of absorption, but now I still don't recognize it. So I'm going to try and get rid of it. But if I can't get rid of it, I'm going to store it. But I'm now not really storing it for later use. I'm storing it because I can't get rid of it. So I'm making it sound like all these supplements are bad for you. And that's probably unfair, because there aren't many occasions where for you.
Yeah, how much benefit?
We've mentioned calcium once or twice. That is one that is absolutely bad for you in its inorganic form for a multitude of reasons, but basically it can end up, putting it simply, robbing the body of other nutrients. So you're not getting the calcium and you're losing other bits, especially magnesium, which we really need. So really with these synthetic things, I suppose our company mantra, which I've said 1,000 times, is none of these nutrients exist anywhere on this planet in live food. And that alone should raise concerns, because we have not evolved to recognize things that aren't in our diet. We just haven't.
Yeah. And the world we're living in is so chemical now. That's the problem. I mean,
sadly,
I'm sure this is a whole separate topic, but if we look at kind of the diseases of the Western world and lots of these rising kind of issues, I would put that down a lot to nutrition, chemicals in our air, things like that. So the less chemicals we can ingest,
well, that's
the better.
That's a very interesting point, Mary Christine, because when you look at nearly every advice we give, nearly always in there are some of the antioxidant nutrients. These are really important, never more so than at the moment, never, because they're generally the antiviral, the immune boosting ones. And the one thing that removes all the toxicity we're generating, and we're generating it, as you say, through chemicals in the air, in the food, especially in processed foods, stress, all of these things are creating this terrible toxic buildup. And antioxidants are what bind to these toxins and get them out of the body, stopping them, preventing healthy cell damage, what we call free radicals. And this is another area where synthetic antioxidants they lose their antioxidant quality, that binding effect, that chelating effect, where they can bind onto something and get it out of the system. Synthetic antioxidants do not work very well. Food antioxidants work really well, and food stuff.
Andy or myself will try and get back to you. So in terms of antioxidants, people often don't even know what antioxidants are in food. So I always try to explain anything brightly colored. You want to have like a range of colors in your diet, but you can take these through supplementation as well, which I think we're going to discuss a few different ones that you guys recommend in this climate particularly.
We look at the antioxidant nutrients because they happen to be the very antiviral and immune boosting ones. So we look at selenium, for example. As a society, we are very selenium deficient. A lot of interesting articles about the protective effects selenium has against many common cancers. Also, we're not really meant to talk about nutrition and that, but selenium is even through medical research, etc., proven to be a very healthy insurance, if you like, against common cancers. But also it's very antiviral, and it has been shown in China previously with viral spreads that people who are selenium deficient are more prone. In Africa, with the big HIV epidemic in the 80s and 90s, once again, it was spreading more quickly with selenium deficient people. So we know selenium is very good for the immune system, and we know that it's very antiviral. We include it in almost anything that we recommend. Zinc, once again, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, I also know from clients with reproductive health issues that selenium has a massive role to play in male fertility as well, doesn't it?
It does, and so does zinc, which was the next one I was about to mention. So selenium, zinc, doctors are talking about it, which is lovely because you don't often get doctors talking about nutrition. But relating, to coronavirus at the moment, zinc is being talked about a lot because, once again, very antiviral, very good for you, and, as you say, very important for the reproductive system. If we look at vitamin C, that is a potent antioxidant, very strong for the immune system, and also very good for the respiratory system, as is vitamin D, which we'll come on to. But sticking with vitamin C, the reason being vitamin C helps you heal more quickly. So as you're destroying a part of the body, for example, aligning the lungs, vitamin C is reconnecting the tissue. It's helping you rebuild healthy cells. So vitamin C is important for the respiratory system, and as well as your joints. If you've got an injury or you've had an operation, take lots of food vitamin C, not ascorbic acid necessarily, food vitamin C. We don't store it as well, so that's one that whenever we're suggesting it, we always say take a lot more because your body's just going to keep sucking it up at the moment. What have we covered? Beta glucans are very interesting. They are plant glucans that very interesting actually, especially at the moment because they prevent viral injury, but it's not something you can take after you've got something. It's a preventative measure, so you need to take it now before you get firstly, we all know that we need probiotics after antibiotics to get the healthy gut working. We also know at the moment that one of the big markers with coronavirus is people with inflammatory disease in terms of mortality rates, and probiotics stop inflammation not only in the gut but wherever else you have inflammation in the body. Alzheimer's, for example, is inflammation within the brain. So probiotic has been shown to be very helpful for that. But what it does do, primarily aside from all of that, is it makes you or allows you to digest far more of the nutrients you're absorbing. So, we know we're eating foods which are already a bit deficient, or not a bit, very deficient. And, if you're growing your own, fantastic. If you're buying from farm shops, fantastic. But we know that commercially grown fruits and vegetables are deplete. So you want to get whatever you can from them, and the probiotics make the gut much better at absorbing stuff. So in a nutshell, those are the most important products I would suggest at the moment. And I know we probably want to talk about vitamin D.
I've just popped up on the screen actually, and I've popped it in the links below our chat here. There is a link to the Foodstate Company's website, but it's a blog exactly on what we're going through today. So that if you're kind of watching later or you think, oh, I really want to share this with a friend, it's all on there. So please kind of go across to Andy's website and have a little look. Also, just in case I forget, as Andy has very kindly offered to do 10% off if you use the code ALIGN10. So that's ALIGN 10, and you will get 10% off any of your basket. So thank you for that, Andy.
That's all right. Yep, no, my pleasure. I like working with practitioners because it's just, gets a nice holistic feel to the whole thing.
Oh, it's great. And to be honest, it's just getting the information out there. So I'm really grateful you coming on today and explaining this. It was lovely. You came in and did a talk to kind of our team at Align on it. And even though we get a little bit of nutritional kind of education at chiropractic college, it's not much. So you're learning as you go. So you and Eric, who was kind of one of the founders of Foodstate Company, or in the background kind of started it all, he is phenomenally interesting. So I was so grateful to have had the chance to speak to him.
Yeah, he's fascinating.
planning on coming over again, or you, because I know sometimes you run some talks and things with him?
Actually, I've not done one for a while. So that's something, of course, we've got travel restrictions, but maybe later in the year. And of course, I'll let yourself and other people I work with know. And it's always fascinating. He's had such an interesting life, and at the moment is very busy working with Chinese hospitals, doing protocols for them on the immune system. He's very well respected over there. He doesn't talk about his qualifications very much, but he is very qualified to offer expert nutritional advice to people. And interestingly enough, one of the things that he's been talking about, of course, as many others have, is vitamin D. And I think is worth, for the sake of your listeners, just to talk about the importance right now of vitamin D. First thing I'd say, if you like the sun and you don't put cream on, I'm not suggesting anyone goes out and burns. On record, I'm not suggesting anyone goes and burns. But
just saying that.
Yeah. Gently tanning is important. I think people get this wrong. Vitamin D is incredibly important for your health in a multitude of ways. People worry about skin cancer, and yes, if you burn your skin, you are more inclined to get skin cancer. But guess what? One of the things that protects you against skin cancer is vitamin D. So if you're not getting vitamin D, you're more prone to skin cancer. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, that message, but get tanning gently is a good idea to get your vitamin D. Other sources of it are foods, but don't suit everyone, because really it's meat. Red meats and things are one of the best sources. Offal in particular is high in vitamin D, but a lot of people are vegan and vegetarian and don't want that. Even certain fish, oily fish, are high in vitamin D, but once again, if you don't eat fish, you're not getting it. So we get back to this requirement to take supplementation, and of course, the Foodstate one is a food form of vitamin D as opposed to a synthetic. Would this be a good time just to mention a little bit about why it's really important at present?
Yes, I mean, fire away. I think people know that it's important. I don't think they really understand why, or the research that's coming through about the immune system and how big a role it plays. So yeah, please tell us.
Yeah. Well, its importance was first recognized during the Spanish flu, which was a swine flu, and that was in 2018 and 2019. And as infection should have been spreading, they were going into summer, all of a sudden the mortality rate dropped dramatically, and they thought, why? And then they realized that it's because people were getting vitamin D from the sun. So there's your cheapest, most natural source of vitamin D, the sun. What vitamin D does is it really protects the lungs. So when someone becomes acute with this, it attacks the lungs, they're inclined to get pneumonia, and ultimately that can kill them. Now, there are concerns now about ventilators. Of course, they probably save lives, but there are concerns that it is potentially causing longer-term damage. This is doctors saying this. I'm not being controversial on this. So, but what is very clear is you need to try and oxygenate the blood. But very interestingly, when we look at the ethnicity of people dying, we are seeing a much higher number of people with darker skin. People of Indian or African origin with darker skin. They are more vitamin D deficient. They have evolved with darker skin because, of course, they would have come from places where sun was prevalent. Australia at the moment is coming out of a very long, hot summer. They've had very little outbreak. It's not a coincidence. Very little outbreak. Their outbreak hasn't been as much as Europe, but their death rate has been very low. Is really what I wanted to say. Once again, lots of vitamin D. I've been listening to an Irish chap who's a statistician, really, really interesting. He puts all these graphs up and he shows all these things. And of course, we have the advantage now of being able to look at the stats of places like Wuhan that are far more advanced and come through this. So that's fortunate for us. But they are showing that if you are vitamin D deficient, which is under 20 nanograms per milliliter, you are 10 times more likely to die of coronavirus. And if you are insufficient, which is between 20 and 30, you are almost 8 times more likely to die of coronavirus if it attacks the lungs. And if you're over 30 and up to 45, which is your normal level, your risk of death is dramatically reduced. So I can't put a more importance on the fact that at the moment, vitamin D is incredibly important. You're seeing articles about it. It may help and things like that. It's ridiculous. The stats are there now to show that vitamin D is saving lives. And when you look at all the markers of people who are dying, we know that we see high blood pressure, insulin resistance. So either people who are diabetic or are onset diabetic, we don't realize it yet, of which I have to say, sadly, there are a lot of people because of our, a lot of people are insulin resistant. Along both of those, we often see a lot of obesity. So that's another big marker there. And now we can absolutely add, or people with a weak heart, things like that, we sort of take as a given. But we can now absolutely add onto that list people who are vitamin D deficient, because this is being very well proven now. Yeah. So vitamin D.
It's all the inflammatory diseases. So I think when people get scared about going in the sun, I follow a couple of groups on this. I think a safe level is to be outside half an hour, not in, midday sun, but like in the morning, go out for a half an hour's walk where you're getting all your arms or legs, as much skin kind of open to the elements as you can. So you absorb as much as you can. There's actually a lot of evidence to say the very, very early morning sun. So it's sunrise. If you sit in sunrise facing the sun, you will absorb a lot more vitamin C than you will do kind of later in the day. So have your morning coffee on your doorstep, or if you're in the centre of town, just get out where you can, sit there, again, freeze if you have to, but just get some skin on show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother subject, but we really do need vitamin D. Becoming paranoid about never going in the sun is desperately unhealthy. You do need sun. We have evolved our entire lives getting sun. To suddenly say don't get any now is really not very clever. Lathering yourself in sun creams. If you're going to use sun creams, try and use organic ones, because there are nasty toxins in these sun creams. This does get a bit controversial, but it is true. Those toxins go under the skin and they end up polluting the body and end up in places like the liver. And we have enough toxicity without putting more and more toxins on our skin.
That's a good point you raise. And if people are unsure, because I do get asked about this a lot, if people are unsure of kind of what sunscreens are safe, because a lot of them are just pumped full of like hideous chemicals and you're doing yourself more harm than good. I can send you some information on that. Again, just ping kind of comment in the link and I can send you the stuff I use, kind of the brands I use, the things that are safe. And there's a couple of amazing apps. One is called Think Dirty. Bit of a funny name, but you can actually put your product into this app, let's say without, Nivea face cream, for instance, put exactly what you're using, and it will give you a traffic light system of red, amber, green. In terms of red means the most toxic substances are included, amber is not so bad, and green is safe. So you can look up a lot of these brands that are coming as natural or kind of very pure, organic, and they're not always what they seem. So Think Dirty is one of them. There is also another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, if you want to know this stuff, please just comment below and I'll happily forward it on. Yeah. It would be really good to have one of those apps for nutritional supplements, actually. There you go. Any techies out there who wants to create this, there is an amazing plan for you.
It's a minefield. Also, we have to bear in mind that all of the nutritional supplements globally are made by a handful of pharmaceuticals, and these pharmaceuticals are very powerful and very persuasive and are extremely good at shutting you down whenever you say something they don't like. So we always try to not be controversial, just speak the truth. As I say, I started by saying our mantra is none of these ingredients exist anywhere on this planet in live food. That's totally true. You won't ever find ascorbic acid in an orange, or you'll never find calcium carbonate in a lettuce leaf. They don't exist in live food. So that's a nice sort of way to round it on, if you like, sort of finish on.
So I have heard, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that is it ascorbic acid is a derivative of petrochemical. Have I heard that correctly? That they actually make these synthetic products from petrochemicals.
That's exactly where they come from. I mean, that's not a secret. It's never publicized, of course, but no, coal tar derivatives, petrochemicals, ascorbic acid. I'm going to have to test my memory now. Is ascorbic acid is hydrogenated sugar mixed with acetone. That is
Delightful.
although vitamin D is the nicest of them all. I would say that the better companies now use lanolin, which is the oil from sheep's wool. And that is the basis with which ours is made, which actually is one of the few products that we do that isn't sort of vegan for that reason. But it's not animal flesh, as it were. It's just the wool. Yeah. We a lot of vegetarians are very happy taking ours for that reason, because it's not animal.
Yeah, skin based. Yeah.
Exactly. But the cheaper and the most common source still is animal fat or irradiated cattle brains, is where
lovely. Irradiated cattle brains. Isn't that a delightful thought? Yeah. And we're paying a premium price for this product.
Yes,
enjoy.
Exactly. That's the funniest thing, isn't it? Because when we've had this conversation before, where, and it does make me laugh, you'll go and buy the most expensive brand out there, and I tip my hat to the marketing people behind those, because I think they're magicians. I wish I had their brains, because they'll take the same product as your cheapest high street £3 or £4 product. They will then make it sound fantastic. They'll get a doctor on board in his white coat saying, I believe these are the best research products. And you turn it round and the ingredients are identical.
Yeah. And it's just the packaging. It's the packaging and the sell.
Breathtaking, but well done them. They're very clever at what they do. Always turn the product round and look at the ingredients. With minerals, if the word ends in ate, like carbonate or phosphate or sulfate, orotate, there are dozens. That is the inorganic rock form one, as I described it earlier, that ends in ate.
That's very helpful. That's very helpful, because I wouldn't, if I turn something round, I'd go, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds right. If you don't know what you're looking for, so anything in 8, all right?
On a mineral, vitamins, you can just take it for granted. I mean, 99% of them are all synthetic or chemical form, as we describe mineral. So you've got a 99% chance that it is synthetic, which is why I always say to people, stick with the food state. You know, if you're going to supplement, the word supplement means it's supplemental to your diet. I would never say to anyone that anything is more important than your diet, because it isn't. Eating healthily is your first priority. But I think we all have to be intelligent about this and accept that we have so many gaps. It's like a sieve now, all those gaps of nutrients no longer in our diet. So just saying eat a healthy diet, in my opinion, means nothing anymore. So if you're going to supplement, take food supplements, don't take synthetic ones.
And in terms of like kind of immune boosting, like how long would you recommend taking, let's say, you know, the beta glycans, the vitamin C? I mean, the selenium and magnesium, I think you should just take all year round, or kind of periodically through the year if need be. Like, how long would you recommend doing kind of an immune booster? Would you normally just do it in the winter months, or do you do it a few times during the year as well?
Personally, I do it all the time because I just see it more as insurance. These are all just food nutrients. Your body's going to take what it wants. It'll store what it wants. It'll get rid of what it wants. You're never in the deficient group. At the same time, we have to be conscious that people have budgets. Some of our multi-nutrients are very useful. For example, if you look at the joints of bone, it has calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, vitamin C, vitamin D in it, in a multi-nutrient. So that's an inexpensive way of getting a little bit of everything, multivitamin, mineral. We put all of our antioxidants into one product, with the exception of beta glucans. So I agree with you. Magnesium we're very deficient in. Selenium, I wish everyone in the world would take selenium. I really do. In countries where they've put it by law into bread.
I was going to say, it goes into bread now, doesn't it?
Yeah, so everyone should take selenium. You couldn't imagine a better, cheaper insurance policy against life's nasties. Vitamin C, perhaps a bit more relevant in winter, but it's not just for your immune system. You need vitamin C for heart function. You need calcium for heart function. You know, there's... I think you just really need to look on the website and just see things that make sense. We try to educate. You don't need to buy dozens of different products. But I think your body often tells you what you need. And depending on your diet as well, you might hate oily fish. So you may think that taking omega-3 fish oils is a good idea. If you like sea swimming, take it, because it's like an antifreeze in the body. Very good for your heart, but it also
I'll double my dose because I'm always cold.
Same. I go in the sea and I freeze. I admire these people who do it. But anyway, so yes, I'm always very happy to offer advice and help. But the website, I hope, has done that job.
Your website's phenomenal, and I'm not just saying that. There's a whole section on age-related or condition-related sections. So if you are someone that suffers with arthritis, Andy has a section where you can go on regarding arthritis, the recommended products, pregnancy recommended products, autoimmune. There's all sorts. Literally, it's a really well put together website. I actually really enjoy using it, and I'm not just saying that.
Actually, sadly, there is a slight change, which I probably do need to mention now you've said that. No. I know. The regulator has forced me to take what I termed common ailments, which were like the arthritis, the asthma, the recurrent infection, rheumatoid. They're all alphabetical, and they were so well thought. Eric Llewellyn wrote them all.
Brilliant.
Really work. Now I've still got them, but I'm not allowed to put them on the website because apparently you can only treat those conditions with pharmaceutical drugs. Nothing else works.
Of course, because that's what the body needs. Chemicals, that's exactly what it needs.
So,
okay, well, then if you want that information, email Andy directly.
Exactly.
It's brilliant. Before I forget, children, I get lots of people kind of wanting to supplement their kids who are, colourful veg averse, and they just want to eat taupe-coloured food.
Yeah.
Supplements for kids. Do you think you offer them, but I can't really remember on kind of like the fish oils and things like that. Do you do a liquid version or anything like that?
No, we do a children's multivitamin. And in fact, if you go on the age gender ones you mentioned, we do some age groups. And
sorry, I lost you there, Andy. We froze there for some reason. If you go on
the age-related section on the website, you'll see advice for children. It is difficult getting children to take supplements, but we do a children's multivit that was actually created by the person who started the company that makes Foodstate products for his own children. And that is very small. It's not as big as a Tic Tac. So good idea, getting a little bit of everything they need. The other thing to think about for children, I really mean this, is probiotic. They eat far too much sugar. They don't eat a lot of live food that puts all that lovely, microflora in there. Their digestion invariably isn't particularly good. The probiotics in a powder, it really doesn't taste unpleasant in any way.
It's kind of got a sweetish. It's like a strawberryish flavour. And it's it's an amazing probiotic. It's really, really good. So
it's fantastic.
And you can use it for breastfeeding.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we got a pregnancy formula as well. But the children's multivit is important for youngsters. If they really don't like swallowing a tablet, as small as it is, you can just crush it up and put it in their food. They're not going to know. And when they get yeah, there we go.
I never noticed it. I do that with my dogs. They never see it coming.
But otherwise, essential fats are good for children because it helps their brain development. The omega-3 fish oil, it's nicknamed brain food. If you've got kids doing exams or anxious at school, it's another really good product for that. But you can pierce it and squeeze it into a bit of orange juice or something, once again, if they take a capsule.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Thank you, Andy. I feel like we've covered so much today, which is great because you're like a wealth of information. I love talking to you about this stuff because I learn something every single time. Yeah, no,
it's a pleasure. And anyone who wants to get in touch, the email is on the website. If there's anything confusing or anything that people don't think they can choose the bits they need and want a bit of advice, then please don't hesitate to contact. I try and get back to people within 24 hours.
Amazing. You're a superstar.
It's a line 10, all in capitals, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, a line 10, all in caps, and you'll get 10% off, which obviously makes it a bit easier. Andy is Jersey-based also, so the supplements are on island. So they're quick to receive. It's not like kind of ordering them from the UK or China, where I know lots of them come from as well.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Andy. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, if anyone wants to kind of know any more specific topics, you know, maybe Andy might be kind enough to come on and do another live at some point on something.
Yeah, absolute
No
pleasure.
pressure, Andy.
No.
I like to put people on the spot.
No, that's great. Thanks. I enjoyed the opportunity, Mary Christine, and really appreciate it. It's lovely to work in Jersey with like-minded people.
That's great. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day and speak soon.
Great. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.